Good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate you all taking time to be with us here in beautiful Madison County and in the town of Marshall. My name is Tony McEwen. I'm the Carolinas Director for the American Flood Coalition, and this has been a beautiful couple days here in Western North Carolina. We are officially announcing the start of the Western North Carolina Recovery and Resilience Partnership, which is a partnership of local elected officials here in Helene-impacted communities throughout Western North Carolina, supported proudly so by the American Flood Coalition. We very much acknowledge the fact that this was a very unique storm in the level of destruction and tragedy that faced this beautiful region of North Carolina. But not only that, how uniquely long this recovery is very likely to be. And as we see as additional disasters and news hit the headlines across the United States, the lights dim just a little bit more on Western North Carolina while the need and the urgency still exist. And so this commitment by my organization, American Flood Coalition, and these amazing local leaders that have been on the front lines since Hurricane Helene to come together and work on this, not just in the weeks and months ahead, but the years ahead, to continue to be a voice for their communities, not just to recover effectively and expeditiously, but to also make sure that we build resilience so the tragedy that impacted this community may be less so going forward. This is ultimately about saving taxpayer dollars, because when we make these smart investments on the front end of disaster, ultimately we save taxpayer dollars, we make sure our communities remain livable, but most importantly that we maintain public safety to the best of our abilities. So I appreciate y'all being with us today. We are very fortunate to have the Secretary of North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, Reed Wilson, who he and his staff have spent 2 days with us, meeting with local elected officials throughout Western North Carolina. Thank you, Secretary. We're very fortunate to have both Congressman Tim Moore and Congressman Chuck Edwards, who have been doing amazing work throughout Western North Carolina, taking a leadership position at the federal level since Hurricane Helene hit, and a number of legislators that joined us last night. This is a very exciting moment. Again, I am beyond proud as a representative of the American Flood Coalition to be in support of these local elected officials behind us, and I want to make very clear our role in this is to follow the lead of these local elected officials who know what's best, know what the needs are in their community. And I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Matt Wechtel of Madison County.
Welcome everybody to Madison County and our historic Madison County Courthouse. We obviously suffered a tremendous impact here in the town of Marshall. Also the town of Hot Springs. It was devastating to these two communities. This recovery is probably going to be one of the longest recoveries that North America has faced from a flood event. This is going to take years to recover from. What we're doing down here, we just want to thank a couple of our businesses. Joel at Zuma Coffee has provided some coffee and stuff for us. And that's part of what our recovery plan is. Anywhere we can, any opportunity we get, if we can help prop up our local folks in the same time that we're doing this recovery stuff. So at this time, Mayor Haney.
One thing I'd like to say, I thank you all for being here and everything. This is a really important thing that's going on. For Marshall being a town of our size, we can worry about maybe being forgotten during all this, but I know through our partners and the efforts of us all working together that we won't be forgotten, and neither will anybody else from this region. And I'd like to hand this over to Alderman.
There's a real need to understand the level of critical infrastructure that has happened, and at the same time recognize that we have to reopen these businesses so they can start making money, the ones that are able to be reopened. So I think that's a balance that this partnership can help facilitate. We can't reopen fully until these critical infrastructure issues are handled.
And with that, let me introduce the Mayor Lyerly of Banner Elk.
Our President Trump is talking about revamping FEMA. Our Governor Stein is already implementing new strategies for relief. We have a unique plan for what we've been through and the tragedies.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to bring up the Mayor Pro Tem of Lake Lure, David Diorio.
What a beautiful place, and what an honor to be here. And the first thing that I see when I came to this town of Marshall is when you take a look at the river and you take a look at the town and you talk about rebuilding and resiliency, there's no place for the town to go. There are cliffs on either side here. So really the question, and we have the same question in Hickory Nut Gorge, which is to the southeast, this very same question is, how do we invest in a way to protect these communities collectively, not just by building, invest in flood control instruments to protect these beautiful Western North Carolina towns? And that's really the question we need to ask now and invest now, not just have a myopic view on an individual basis, but collectively, what can we do? And that makes us good stewards of the American taxpayer dollars. Thank you, Tony.
Let me bring up the mayor of Chimney Rock as well. Mayor O'Leary?
It's been an interesting 2 days. I've talked to a lot of the mayors and elected officials on this trip. I can echo everything that they've said. We're all in this together. None of us want to be forgotten. But what I really see and what has really been driven home to me on this trip, we're a brotherhood. We're the heart and soul of Western North Carolina, small towns in Western North Carolina. We're all facing this problem individually, but we need to face this problem together. That's a large part of what the American Flood Coalition can help us with. Our elected officials, I think, represent that in Washington or recognize that in Washington and in Raleigh. And I think we just need to remember that and lean on each other. That's what's going to keep us going forward, and that's what's going to get us to the future. Appreciate this effort, appreciate the American Flood Coalition and the elected officials that are here supporting us too.
Mayor Dawson is in town from Burgall, North Carolina, but the mayor of Burgall helped organize and lead a similar effort in Eastern North Carolina that paid major dividends, not only for Eastern North Carolina, for the state, but she's here representing Eastern North Carolina mayors to give encouragement to these folks and also kind of share some best practices of how they've done something similar that's been beneficial to their community. With that, let me hand it over to Commissioner Drew Ball of Buncombe County.
So I'm Drew Ball. I'm with the Buncombe County Commission. I'm recently appointed, but when the storm hit, I wasn't yet on the commission, but I was a volunteer firefighter. And what I saw immediately in our community is that folks didn't rush to repair their own homes. They rushed to help their neighbors. They went to check on the folks across the street, the elderly folks down the road. And we're still doing that. That was the most inspiring thing. It showed the character of this region. Folks from around the country have seen what we've gone through and come here to support us. Louisiana, Michigan, all the way from LA. And we're going to continue to stand together because it's going to be a long road to recovery. We recognize that. And that's what this coalition is here to do, is stand with each other, advocate for the resources we need, and get through this together. So I really appreciate this opportunity to be part of this.
Next steps for this partnership is we will be going to Raleigh in a few days, a few weeks, and then after that we'll be going to Washington, and we will do that over and over and over again with the support of the American Flood Coalition as long as that message needs to be taken to both Raleigh and Washington. And so we're going to push where we need to push, and we're going to say thank you when we need to say thank you. But we've got to do things differently in this state and in this nation. We got to make sure that we invest in forward-looking data, making sure we understand truly what the level of risk is in this region and throughout our state. And we need to make sure that our investments that we make from hard-earned taxpayer dollars are better spent when we know exactly what the risk is. These individual communities can't deal with flooding on their own. This is an issue that has to be dealt with at a watershed level. Mayor Zeb Smathers of Canton, North Carolina, close us out.
First off, I want to say thank you to all the elected officials, American Flood Coalition, bringing us all together. We've had amazing last couple of days, but I think the most amazing point for me just happened while we were standing here. You see dark clouds on the horizon, but every few moments there's a ray of sunshine. You hear the birds from an approaching spring, and you hear saws putting these businesses and houses back together. That is the song of spring. That is the song of hope, and I think that's what's happened here the last 2 days. We know the challenges are great. We know there are dark days still ahead of us, but you're starting to see the ray of light come through. And we don't want people standing in our way that are going to try to make that harder for us to do any level of government. This is beyond politics. This is beyond Democrat and Republican, because we know there's going to be another storm somewhere, whether it be cell phone outages or the ability to get temporary housing. If we can help change that, not only are we going to make things better, we're going to save lives across the United States. Thank the American Flood Coalition for bringing us together.